Let's look at how we can create elements to the DOM. The best way to do this is to manually create and insert individual DOM element nodes into the document. This is a very powerful technique to learn. It lets you change your page on the fly. And to do this, you're always going to use two steps. First, you're going to create the element. So you would say, I want to create a paragraph or a heading or a list item or an anchor tag or whatever it is. And then the next step is that you would then add the newly created element to the right place in the DOM. So here's a page that's similar to what we've already been working on. The only difference that I have is that I have a new div that I've given an ID of new content. Currently this div is empty, so if we look at our page in the browser, it currently just looks like this. So what we'll do is we'll start by creating the element. We're going to create a heading and a paragraph into this section. And then what we'll do is we'll add the newly created elements to the right place in the DOM. Let's go into a script portion and let's create a couple of variables. So we'll make a variable for our new heading. And I'm just going to make that equal to document.createElement. And we're just going to go ahead and specify that we want to create an H1. And then we'll do the same thing for a paragraph. So we'll call this one new paragraph. And we'll say that we want to create a P tag. So all we've done here is we've just created the elements. They don't exist anywhere on our page. So if we save our page right now and we look in the browser, we're not going to see any difference because now that we have the elements, we need to specify where they're going to appear on the page. Create element allows us to pass in a string that says what kind of element. In this case, we added both a H1 and a P tag, but you could use this method to really create anything you wanted to. So this creates the element, but it just kind of exists somewhere out there. It's not actually part of the DOM itself. So the next thing we need to do is to call the element and place it in the DOM. We'll use append child method of my element to do this. Alright, so we're going to use our document.getElementById, and in our parentheses we're going to pass on the name of our location where we want these elements to be created. So I want them placed inside the div that has an ID of new content, and I'm just going to use the .append child method, and I'll pass on the name of the variable that I want to append. So that's going to be passed on into the parentheses like so. And I'll copy this line of code and we'll have it append child and add the new paragraph that we're specified as well. So if we save our page and refresh in the browser, visually we don't see a difference. If I fish around on my page though, you can see that here is my div with an ID of new content. I have an H1 and I have a paragraph. So the elements have now been created inside the new content div. These elements though just don't contain any information. So let's go ahead and let's pass some information into those. I'm going to create two more variables, and we'll just make a little comment here that we want to create the text node content. We're going to make the variables equal to the document.createTextNode method, and then in the parentheses inside of quotes I will place the actual content that I want. So we have a variable called h1 text, and it's going to create some text that says seasonal flavors. We're going to do the same thing for our paragraph. So once again, what I've done right here is we've used the create text node method to actually create the content, the text content that we want to display, but it's very similar to creating the element. It's out there in the space of our page somewhere, but it's not attached to anything. So once again, we're going to use the append child, except this time we're going to add it to the new element that we created. So we'll just use new header, which is the name of the variable that we created that's going to be our H1, and then we're going to pass on the append child method, and then in parentheses we're going to put the name of the variable that has the actual value that we want to display. We'll just do the same thing for the paragraph as well. Now if we save our page and we go back into our browser and refresh, you can see that I have new content that's been dynamically inserted onto my page. Here is our H1 and here is our paragraph text. So now you know several different ways that you can access the DOM, change the DOM elements, and create elements right to the DOM. These are things that you'll see utilized often in JavaScript and also with jQuery. It's important that you understand these concepts because they will come up over and over again as you continue to work with JavaScript.